I've heard the
That's good.
album,
You heard the whole thing.
heard the whole thing.
Wow, awesome. Thanks for
Guess
listening.
guess what my favorite song is on it.
One of your girls?
Mark thought the same thing, but it's
That's because
top.
it's our favorite.
It's Honey.
Ah,
What a
wow.
song.
Rogue choice.
Is it?
Yeah, to me. No, I love that song, but wow, cool. Thank you.
To me, it's funny. This whole album sounds so global. There's such a global sentiment on it. It feels
Oh,
like
thank you.
a well-traveled person. And there's something about that song that kind of brings that warm, clubby energy and that
Yeah,
sort of romantic emotion all
yeah.
into kind of one weird little club tune.
That makes
So,
me so happy because I spoke a lot about like the idea of global pop when we were making the album and just like fully enjoying myself, just feeling so lucky that I get to travel while I'm making the music. We made a lot of the album was made in Melbourne, a lot of the album was made in Stockholm, in London, and in LA. And I'm just like so inspired when I'm traveling. And then the visuals for the album have followed suit as well. We made the Rush video in Berlin. We made the the Got Me Started video in Bangkok. And so we're like bopping around and yeah, I love the fact that pop music I mean music in general, but especially pop can really like bring people together. So um thank you for saying that.
no, absolutely. I mean, across the record, there's so many different sounds from different places, and it's really interesting looking at the sort of credit sheet and looking at where everything was recorded because it
Yeah.
truly was kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
I wonder in that, you're in Australia at the moment. You've obviously got your place in Melbourne that you're extremely proud of and should be. What's your connection to home these days? What does the word home mean to you? What does the place feel like for you? Is it a kind of nomad expedition for you still, or do you feel this connection to certain places?
No, I think for me home is at home in Melbourne, and it's kind of always been this push and pull for me. I didn't sleep out at a friend's house until I was like 17. Like I tried when I was a kid and I would get so homesick and I would call my mum in the middle of the night and make her come pick me up.
Yeah.
I've just like always been kind of a homebody, and so that has created a bit of tension in my life over the years once I started traveling. Um, trying to kind of like recreate it wherever I am and just feeling this kind of constant pull to come back to Australia and be with my family. So yeah, it's definitely Australia.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you talk about being 17 and sort of, that's probably the first time that you felt comfortable staying at someone's place for an entire night right through to the morning.
Yeah.
We're, 28 now.
Mm.
What's your connection to adulthood like? As someone who kind of has been in the public eye since they became an adult,
Mm.
I wonder, I talk to some people and they feel like they didn't get a chance to properly grow up privately,
Mm.
who are sort of in their late 20s, early 30s.
Mm.
What's your connection to being an adult? Do you feel like an adult yet?
In some ways I do, like I think I'm like an adult when it comes to work. I've been working since I was like a kid basically, and I think I know how that kind of goes. And then in a lot of ways I still feel like a 20 something year old, like I still really enjoy hanging out with my friends and going out, and I don't really have a ton of like responsibilities when it comes to like my personal life. I don't have any kids or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I still feel like a young person in a lot of ways. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm really enjoying. 27 was weird for me. I didn't love being 27.
Talk
I
about
think
that. I'm interested in that because I
I
didn't like
think it
27
was
either.
maybe because you're 27 now.
I'm 28 now.
Oh, you're
I'm
28.
a
Okay.
month younger than you, I think. Either a month
Okay.
older or younger, but yeah.
Um, I don't know how about you, but for me, the jump between 26, like 26 still felt very close to 24 to me. I was like,
Yeah.
it just kind of was all blurring. And then all of a sudden 27, and also COVID happened. So
Yeah.
when I was like, I don't know, 25 or something, and all of a sudden I just was like 27, and 27 sounds really close to 30. And I was just like, oh my God, what the hell? When did this happen? Um, and that felt kind of scary for a second. I was just like, whoa. And then adjusted slowly over the course of 27, and now 28 I've welcomed with open arms, and I feel I'm not scared of 30 anymore, and I'm like, I feel really good about 28.
Was there something that happened at the precipice of 28 that made you feel that way? Was there a particular life event, or is it just a general feeling and emotion that you get to?
No, I think maybe, I think the last couple of years have been really big for me personally, growth wise. I've learned a lot and grown up a lot, and spent a lot of time just with myself, and like I feel like just really kind of like learnt who I am, and I hopefully I say the same thing in 2 years, being like, oh, I had no idea who I was when I was 28 or whatever, but yeah, so I think I kind of came into 28 just really a lot more confident and excited
Yeah.
about the future.
You said you spent a lot of time alone. Do you like your own company? Are you fun to hang out with on your own?
Yeah. I think sometimes a bit too much, where like I can, sort of isolate myself a little bit, and need to make sure that I'm, hanging out with people.
Yeah.
Because I'm really happy when I'm with people. Yeah, so it's just about like the balance for me of, what my favorite is like incidental socializing. Like that's what I love about being in Melbourne, is all my friends live so close to me that it's so easy for people to just like walk over and, come over for dinner, come over to watch whatever, a movie or something, everything about it is just like so effortless. And that's my favorite kind of socializing.
Yeah. And that's a late 20s thing, isn't it? Where you just get comfortable. You've sort of closed your circle a little bit. You found the people that you genuinely feel comfortable with, and you allow so much more of yourself for them, and you allow them into your life a lot more.
Yeah.
But it is hard to get to that point, though. And I know that I definitely relate to the isolating yourself thing, because you just have this sort of subconscious thing of like, I'm too exhausting to hang out with. Like, my energy's too much. And then you just have to force yourself to do it. I wonder then, in relation to the music, I've heard you say you made this record with your friends, essentially, and looking at the credits, it's very present there. What went into the thought process of who you were going to pull into the rooms for this record?
To be honest, there wasn't really that much of a thought process, and I think it's because I was working with friends. It was like, oh yeah, of course, I want to do this type of thing. I'm going to go to, let me call up my mate Oscar, or like, and also just like, the rule during the making of this album was it has to be fun. Like this cannot be a stressful process. And so we, of course I wanted to work with friends, and also like, we're still very much like Leland and I, for example, constantly look at each other and be like, can you believe that we're like in Stockholm right now and we get to write songs and like someone else paid for our flights? Like this is so sick. And so, that being able to work with friends in these incredible environments as well is just like a really special experience. And I wanted, the process of making the album was as important to me as like the final product, how it felt to us and how we made it,
Yeah. In the past, when you've obviously got the context now to know what is not a stressful room, what's an enjoyable room to be in. What is it in the past that has made a certain session or room stressful, and what do you know you don't want in a room with you now?
I think it's really just like people who are open creatively, like I don't like going into rooms where it's like, let's write the single. That is a nightmare for me. And I think it's always like, just like, I don't care how weird it is. I don't care how like risky it is. If someone has something that they're inspired by that they want to explore, that's awesome. And like, let's talk about it, So I think if you approach it as like, I don't care if we're making this could end up being a 30-second interlude on the album, or it could end up being the first single every time. You know what I mean? Like that's the approach, is you just go in and you make what feels best.
I feel like that approach is carried through the way that you have sort of articulated yourself around the record since you started talking about it, and what you've kind of done for your entire career. But it feels like more and more, as time's gone on, you've just become more and more unapologetic about what you like, what you don't like, who you like, who you don't like to be around. And is that a natural place that you've arrived at, or has that taken some work to get to and some hard conversations and decisions?
I think it's maybe just like with time, you know, like I think um you just kind of get to know yourself a little bit, and you feel more confident to and comfortable kind of like expressing it. And you know, I'm really lucky. I've got amazing people around me that like really want to look after me, you know?
Mm.
And so, you know, they know and I know that when, you know, if they bring something to me, I know it's because they've got my best interest at heart. And if I was to say to them, "Oh, I don't know about this, by the way," they know that, you know, I'm also coming at it from the same place of just like, you know, what feels right.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, yeah, over time, getting more comfortable with that. It's just sort of happened slowly, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I want to talk about some of the sort of lyrical choices on this
Mm.
album because I think they're quite reflective of where you're at. Because I remember really early on talking to you about the line "You like stick and I like aerosol"
Oh,
in
yeah.
what song was it? Was that in Fools?
Yeah, and Fools.
Man, my brain. I'm so impressed with my brain sometimes.
That's
To
amazing.
have that little nugget in there.
Yeah, wow.
I remember being really fascinated by the specificity you went into there. And then
Yeah.
sort of on like Bloom, for example, we kind of jump into this beautiful sort of metaphorical space. So I
Right.
wonder how you feel your lyrical, you know, ability has progressed and what you are willing to say and how you're willing to say it. How do you feel you've gotten to as a lyric writer?
Well, yeah, some of my favorite lyrics that I've ever written on this album. I think I I just like love songwriting so much, and I love words, and I love finding, you know, conversational ways to say things that you know, that still feels fresh and, you know, like interesting or perks your ears up or um yeah, and I think we're also having a little bit more fun. Like, you know, we're not afraid to, I don't know, there's something about like funny lyrics to me that's cool. So I'm down to like also kind of, even if it's only Leland and I that think it's funny, um, I'm down. It sounds fun to like put a little, you know, nugget in there that's just like for us or, you know, for whoever gets it.
Have you got a favorite or one of your favorites on this album that kind of encompasses all that? Like, what's the funniest lyric you think on this
The
album?
funniest one I actually can't say on the radio.
It's all right. This is going into podcast form with an explicit warning. So if you want to say it, you're welcome to.
No, because you know what? It's so crazy, the lyric to me, that even on the album, it doesn't, it censors it. It like it on the word so that you don't actually get the whole lyric.
I
Because
need
I was
to
like,
go back and do a further dive. I've only had the album for a couple of days, so
it's
I
on the
need-
last track
Okay.
of the album.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, no, but there's also like I mean, some of these songs, like for example, there's two in the middle, Still Got It and Can't Go Back, Baby.
Mhm.
That like those were me. You know, I tried to, like on Can't Go Back, Baby, I tried to write it in the room with everyone, and it just felt kind of crass to be worrying about like rhyme structure and stuff like that while talking about something that was so personal. So in that case, I like went and did it by myself on my phone. Or then, you know, there's like the other process of Leland and I going back and forth, like, you know, having over FaceTime, having a laugh, or just like, you know, him absolutely killing me. Like I remember when we were writing What's the Time Where You Are, I had that concept, you know, what's the time where you are, what's the night like where you are, and then he had he came up with I'm right on top of this groove, but God, I wish it was you. And I was like, Brett, that's your name. I'm like, Leland, stop, like you're killing me. This is so nice. And yeah, just like, you know, there's some really, really nice stuff I think on here. And Got Me Started, I really like. Boy, Can I Be Honest? I kind of miss using my body. Fuck it up just like this party did tonight. I really, really love that. And then I think my favorite lyrically, my two favorite lyrics, they're on Still Got It, and then also on One of Your Girls.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's something about one of your girls, the little sorry, in What's the Time Where You Are, the little voice notes that are kind of smattered throughout it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that
What's-
was me.
Yeah.
On when we were writing it, I put on my Instagram. I was like, send me a voice note of you saying, last night was fucking crazy in your like accent or whatever language you speak, send it to me. And people did, and I screen recorded a bunch of them, and just like had them in my phone for ages. Then we finally put them in, and then I had to go back, and because obviously everything needs to get like approved,
Yeah.
they need to sign paperwork, they're like on the album, and so I had to go back and find the ones that we used and go and message the people on Instagram being like, hey, is it cool if I put this on the album?
Please sign this
what's
document.
your email? Yeah. And thankfully they all said yes.
That's amazing. Because I thought, that is one of the songs that sounds particularly global, and that makes sense that you literally got the audience from all around the world to contribute to that. But it was a really smart choice. And then I think there's also these little bits of spoken word every now and then throughout the album as well.
Yeah.
I fucking love that. And I think one of your girls, like that and the vocal production where you cut in the chorus, like that vocodery kind of thing. What inspired the way that you kind of did the whole vocal situation in that, and what is inspiring vocal production for you?
So I love vocal production. I think that's probably like I mean, I love production in general, but vocal production I can really nerd out,
Yeah.
And I think as well, that's one of the things where I feel really lucky because I almost feel like I've been to the school of Swedish pop, because I sort of have grown up at this point now writing with these incredibly talented Swedish producers and, watching them work and, hearing these like kind of perfect pop vocals and seeing how they put them together. And so then, it's been fun for me to learn it over time. I kind of know, even before we go into the booth, I know exactly how I want to stack something. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do like a really breathy falsetto high octave and then like a little more chesty on the harmony and what, like kind of know how to place things. And it's a really fun part of the process for me. And then on One of Your Girls, I think for me, it was important that song had, sort of this sense of like, I'm trying to think of the word. I mean, obviously like it's melancholy, but I think there should be, there's sort of this like deadpan, energy to it, because I think that the sort of relationships that I'm talking about in that song have left me feeling very empty a lot of the time.
Right.
And so I loved the idea of this kind of like apathetic, like sad robot voice singing the chorus with me. And so we went that direction.
It does sound like that. It's fascinating. I'm going to ask you a really tabloidy question, but you're obviously very much surrounding these Swedish, nerdy, incredible producers and writers. Do you know if Max heard any of this stuff?
Yeah, so I don't even know if he would want me to say this because he didn't want to be credited on the song because he's like, it's just part of, he's just like giving it to us as a gift because, I've been working with them for so long. But he helped on One of Your Girls, yeah. Which that for me, like I have this photo on my phone of him and Oscar standing at the keys, and it's just the back of their heads. But it was a moment where like I left and my brother actually tied. He was in LA at the time, and he came to pick me up from the studio, and it was a surprise because Max came in. He comes in all the time to listen to stuff, and he'll give notes and feedback or whatever. But then when we were playing in One of Your Girls, he like stood up and didn't say anything, and he was like, "Wait, play it again." And he listened to, and then he was like, "Play it again," and he listened again, and then he just was giving us this like glowing review of the song. And he walked up to the keys and he started playing this like synth line, and I've never worked with him directly, and so this was just like a dream come true for me, like just the craziest moment of my life. And when Ty came to fetch me from the studio, I had the biggest smile on my face. He was like, "Why are you smiling?" And I was like, I think I just like worked with Max Martin, like actually worked with him, and yeah, I really am very proud of the fact that he likes the song.
That is the most incredible seal of approval. That photo, tell me that's your wallpaper, because that...
It should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
I've only got a few more minutes. There's a couple of things I want to ask you that are quite retrospective. Now that you signed your record deal, as far as I can work out, 10 years and 4 months ago.
Whoa.
And that means you're a decade-long major label pop star.
Wow.
You've seen a lot, you've done a lot. You're in the zeitgeist now. So I wonder 10 years in, who else do you look at and know that they're doing a good job of being a pop star? Who inspires you now you know the inner workings of how everything goes on? Who do you look at and go, they have played the game perfectly. They have ridden the wave perfectly.
So interesting. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of people that like I will always keep up with. You know, like I will, no matter what, I'm very interested to hear what they do and what direction they're going. And I'm trying to think. I don't know that there's anyone necessarily that I like look at to like model myself after or anything like that. You know, I think that's one of my favorite things about pop is sometimes it feels a little bit like we're all like um comic book characters or something like that, and we all have our own like, you know, special outfit that we wear, and like, you know, like I don't know, that's kind of, and so there's things that make sense for them that would never make sense for me, or that, you know, vice versa, and I think that that's really cool, and it makes I think everyone feel very special. I've never felt competitive in the space at all, because I'm like, no, we're all just completely on our own, in our own lanes, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of. I think Dua is an amazing pop star. I think she's a great pop star.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, Rihanna to me obviously is like, you know, the goat, and I will, you know, she's someone that like for the rest of my life I will want to know what Rihanna is up to.
I think everyone does because we never know.
Yeah,
Never
yeah,
got a
exactly.
clue.
Yeah.
Final thing I'll ask you is another retrospective one. I remember you being the teenager that wasn't sure about how the music industry, the world at large, would be able to take to you being you being gay. And
Mm.
now you are obviously this unapologetic queer, icon to so many. And also I can tell very proud of where you're at with your identity and your connection to sexuality and your connection to queerness.
Mm.
I wonder what you would say. Say there is a kid who is like 15, 16 and in the same position that you were sort of 10, 12 years ago, seeing all these unapologetic, beautiful gay people doing beautiful gay things. What would you say to someone in that position in 2023?
I think like the most important thing that I could say probably is that guaranteed 100% there are people who will love and not only love but like celebrate you for exactly who you are. And so I think that even if they're not around now, or even if that is not clear to you yet, or you haven't found them maybe yet, or they haven't found you yet, they 1000% exist,
Yeah.
and you're going to find them. So it's like, I think it's really just about, you know, patience sometimes, and being like kind to yourself and being patient with yourself. And, you know, because when you're that young, you don't have that much control over your surroundings and your circumstances. And so I think it's kind of like I've lived it, and I know that it's out there. So just, you know, like, you know, be patient, I think.
You're living proof that you can just be yourself eventually if you keep putting bits of yourself out there.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you'll
guess
get there.
we basically just like said it gets better, which is like so annoying, because it's like when, and you know, like I remember, because that campaign was huge when I was like
Yeah, I remember.
coming to terms with my sexuality and everything like that, and I remember thinking like, all right, well, like, I don't know, it's obviously easier said than done and lived, you know.
But
But
having that
it,
awareness I think helps people, like
yeah,
knowing
it's
that they're in
true.
that
That's the
position.
thing, like just that there is 100% a place for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this your best album?
In my opinion, yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, I mean, you know what's interesting though is my perspective on the albums changes so much over time. Like, you know, I thought Blue Neighborhood, you know, like when it's too close, it's out, but then it's like, you know, too close where it still feels, it just feels almost like you're it's not embarrassing, but it's like, oh, I was like 17 or 18, you know, like when I wrote it and all that. And I just feel like now it's been long enough where when people tell me that they love that album, there's something really endearing to me about that. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool that like, you know, 19-year-old me and however old you connected back then in that way. And so I sort of appreciate them all for what they have done and for what they, you know, have like meant to people. Um, but I am definitely the most proud right now of this one for sure.
I'm stoked for you. It's awesome to see you in this whole vibe of you at the moment. It
Thank you.
feels wonderful. Troye Sivan, Something to Give Each Other is out. Thank you, Troye Sivan, for jumping on Behind the Hits. Really appreciate you.
No worries. Thanks.